السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين. Good morning to everybody. Alhamdulillah. Muslims, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Just had a few moments this morning after grabbing my coffee, and I figured, why not open up the Periscope and begin a discussion? That is the beauty of social media. The beauty of these apps is that we have the opportunity to connect with one another no matter where we are, no matter what we're doing, no matter what's going on in our lives. And that is, what social media should be used for, to connect. So, Alhamdulillah, I was thinking about a hadith that I heard in Jumu'ah this Friday. Alhamdulillah, the Imam gave a very beautiful khutbah, and he mentioned a hadith that I hadn't heard before, period. So I said, if I ever got some time this weekend, that I would share that hadith with, the community that you know, I cater to on social media. So, alhamdulillah, after grabbing my coffee this morning, as you can see, I have my coffee here, and I have a few minutes before I run back in the house. So I said, let me share the hadith with you guys. Hadith, I think, is very important. There's some very beautiful jewels. As always, Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he never fails us in the advice that he gives, right? So in this particular hadith, which is on the authority of Abu Hurairah radiyallahu ta'ala anhu, he said, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, I have 5 pieces of advice, khams kalimat. I have 5 pieces of advice. Man ya'khuduha minni, who will take these 5 pieces of advice from me, فَيَعْمَلُ بِهِنَّ, and act on those pieces of advice, أَوْ يُعَلِّمُهُنَّ مَنْ يَعْمَلُ بِهِنَّ, or he will teach these pieces of advice to someone who will act on them. And that shows you that knowledge has 2 purposes. Knowledge serves 2 purposes. Number one is to learn it, and the other is to act upon it, and actually 3 purposes, is to act upon it and then teach it to other people. All right, even if you are not going to act on it yourself. The Prophet ﷺ clearly said, who will take these 5 pieces of advice from me, act upon them, or at least teach them to someone who will act upon them. So even though you may not act upon the information that you have, you still have a duty, you still have a responsibility to teach the information that you have to those who will possibly act upon it themselves. If you're a parent, maybe your children. If you're a spouse, maybe your spouse. Uh, you know, if you have friends, go teach it to your friends. Maybe they'll act upon it. Maybe you won't, but you'll still get the reward for conveying the information to someone else. You still get the reward. Islam is, the gaining reward in Islam is so broad, such a broad spectrum in earning rewards. Even, if you don't have, maybe it's not something that you particularly want to do or have the ability to do, but you are going to teach it to other people. As Abu Darda radiallahu ta'ala anhu, he mentioned in one narration, he said, "Inna la na'mur an-nas bi a'malin wa la na'malu bihinna wa narju min Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala." He said that we may instruct people to do things, but we may not do it ourselves, meaning the Sahaba, meaning the scholars from amongst the Sahaba. Scholars don't always act upon the same knowledge that they have. They don't, including myself. You know what I'm saying? Not saying that I'm a scholar, but, teaching people and giving information out to the community doesn't mean that everything that I teach, I practice. That's just being honest. And anyone who is just completely honest will tell you that they don't act upon every single thing that they teach everybody. All right? Islam is so broad, it might be impossible for a person to do that. It might be completely impossible for a person to act upon every single thing that they learn. But the reward that comes to them is for teaching other people. I'm going to teach you. Even though I don't act upon it myself, I'm still, and it's not hypocritical. Someone can say, well, that's a hypocrite. Why would you learn something and you're not going to practice it? There are variables. There are a number of reasons. You know what I'm saying? Maybe I'm not practicing that, but maybe I'm doing something else. As Allah says in the Quran, وَلَهُمْ أَعْمَالٍ دُونَ ذَلِكَ هُمْ لَهَا عَامِلُونَ. And they have deeds other than that that they are acting upon, that they are engaging in. So perhaps I learned something and, maybe I don't act upon it right then and there in my life, but I teach it to somebody else who will act upon it. All right? We don't act upon everything for reasons that are far beyond what any individual could understand. Only you know why you learned something and you didn't act upon it. All right. Obviously, there's a blameworthy type of not acting upon something, and that is, you learning it, you having the capacity to act upon it, and then you choose not to out of laziness, out of neglect, out of, just a lack of desire. Okay, those things are blameworthy. But let's say, okay, you learned, giving charity to this particular individual, this type of category of individuals, is rewarding or meritorious, but you already give charity to something else. Okay, nothing, no sin on you because you're acting upon your knowledge in a different capacity, if that makes sense. All right. So the Prophet ﷺ said, who will take these 5 pieces of advice from me and act upon them? And if not act upon them, at least teach them to someone who will act upon them. So Abu Hurairah radiallahu ta'ala anhu, he said, Ana ya Rasulullah, he said, I will, O Messenger of Allah. And it shows you Abu Hurairah's enthusiasm for learning, his enthusiasm for, you know, acting upon the advice of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. I mean, after all, Abu Hurairah is the same one who taught Shaitan who learned Ayatul Kursi from Shaitan in exchange to let him go. We all know the hadith that's in Sahih al-Bukhari, right? And as well as Abu Hurairah asking the Prophet ﷺ who will be the quickest people to earn his intercession in paradise. And the Prophet ﷺ said, I didn't think anyone would ask me about that before you, Abu Hurairah, because of what I know of your enthusiasm for knowledge, your thirst for knowledge. All right. So this was something that was well known about Abu Hurairah radiallahu ta'ala anhu, who came into Islam very late. He only spent, 3 years and a few months with the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He migrated from Yemen to Medina in the seventh year after Hijrah. So he was only with the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam for a short amount of time. Yes, yet he managed to acquire a great amount of knowledge, more so than any other companion. All right. It just shows you his zeal and his enthusiasm, which, many Muslims are lacking today. Many Muslims lack the zeal and enthusiasm to learn Islam, not for the purposes of, gaining a social media following, not for the purpose of, being called a sheikh, not for the purpose of being called the imam or ustad or any of these other titles that people put so much emphasis on. This is what you learned Islam for. That's not what learning Islam is about. That's not what learning Islam is about. Wallahi, I just had this conversation with Brother Hassan the other day. And he said to me, he said, I noticed that, you've been kind of MIA on social media, Periscope. And I said, yeah, because, I'm enjoying my life. This is the first time in my life I haven't been given any khutbas. I haven't been given any lectures. This is the first time in my life since I have become a student of knowledge that I have actually enjoyed just being a regular Muslim. I enjoy it. I'm now learning how to use all the information that I got from my years of studying Islam and being able to apply it to myself. Not to say that I wasn't doing it before, but the focus wasn't me before. The focus was teaching everybody and becoming this imam and living up to the expectations of a student of knowledge. You're living up to that expectation, and that takes a lot away from your own personal journey because you don't have the time and energy to invest in it the way that you would like to. And so sometimes it's good to just kind of step outside of the limelight a little bit and just, enjoy what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave you of knowledge, of information, of understanding of the religion. Spend that time and spend that energy with you and your family and just enjoying. So I'm like, I haven't gone anywhere. I'm just enjoying my time and enjoying the information that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala blessed me with. And I'm at peace. You know what I mean? Like, I don't have to debate with anybody. I don't have to, you know what I'm saying? Like, the slander, kind of it goes up sometimes and it comes back down because I'm a non-factor. People only slander you and people only attack you when they feel like you a threat, which is why I haven't been back to Philadelphia. I don't want, anybody to feel like I'm a threat. So, you can have your city if that's what you're fighting for. If that's what you want to establish yourself at, alhamdulillah, go for it. You know what I mean? Go for it. But I'm a non-factor. You don't have to worry about me. And as long as people feel like you are not a threat anymore, then they'll leave you alone and move on to something else. You know what I mean? Move on to something else or move on to someone else, because they always got to find relevance through not hard work. There's some people who find relevance through hard work, and then there's some people who find relevance through working hard on other people. You know what I'm saying? And to each his own. You know what I mean? But I'm really enjoying my life as a Muslim. I'm enjoying my life, learning how to mature with the information that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has allowed me to acquire. So Abu Hurairah radiallahu ta'ala anhu, he said, I'll take the information from you, O Messenger of Allah, and I'll act upon it. And the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam grabbed Abu Hurairah by the hand, grabbed him by the hand, right? And he gave him these five. So I want to share these five with you. I mean, just listen to the advice of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, so profound. He said, اتقوا المحارم تكون أعبد الناس. اتق المحارم تكون أعبد الناس. He said, stay away from, avoid maharim, avoid the maharim. And the maharim in the Arabic language is a word that encompasses the things that Allah commanded us to stay away from, as well as the things that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala commanded us to do. Those are all called maharim. اتق المحارم تكون أعبد الناس. Stay away from the maharim, stay away from the things that Allah made haram, and do the things that Allah commanded you to do. تكون أعبد الناس, and you will be the most devout of people, the most devout of worshipers. The most devout of worshipers. أعبد الناس. The Prophet ﷺ didn't say change your dress. He didn't say if you put on all black, sister, you'll become the most religious and righteous of the people. He didn't say if you put on gloves and a niqab and you start to say, little Arabic phrases here and there like na'am, when you talk, like, I'm all pun intended, but no pun intended. Meaning, I don't mean to be disrespectful to those who do that because they're trying to find their identity. I get it. But all pun intended is like, yo, dude, we speak English. Like, why are you using Arabic phrases in normal talk? We're talking English. You don't need to say na'am, like, what type of validation are we looking for? That doesn't make you more Muslim. That doesn't make you more religious. That doesn't make you more pious. That doesn't make you more God fearing because you use Arabic slogans and phrases in your language, in your speech. To a normal Muslim, you sound crazy. Honestly, you sound ridiculous. Just being honest with you. The Prophet ﷺ says, speak to people in a language that they understand. If you're talking to an Arab, then okay, cool. But you're talking to someone who speaks English. You speak English. Why do you feel like it's necessary for you to break out with Arabic slogans and phrases here and there? Like, I mean, you got to think about that. I mean, just think about the logic in that. I mean, some stuff just doesn't make sense to me. I mean, to each his own. But it's, if you look at what he said, in order to become A'bad nas, the most devout of worshipers amongst the people, it's certain deeds that you do. Deeds, not dress, not a dress code. اتق المحارم تكون أعبد الناس. Stay away from the maharim. Stay away from the things that Allah made haram. تكون أعبد الناس. And you will become the most devout of worshippers. And here in today's time, you have people who engage in all types of haram. Yet still you can throw a slogan or a phrase or a title over top of you, and you're still supposed to be regarded as the most, righteous of the people. It doesn't work like that. It doesn't work like that. You don't get to sell drugs, post pictures of yourself with alcohol, and engage in all types of haram. Not just haram, but kaba'ir, major sins in Islam, the things that are regarded in Islam as major sins. And then double back and say, well, at least I pray. I pray, or at least I wear thobe, or at least I attend this particular masjid. That one does not cancel out the other. As a matter of fact, the haram that you're doing so fluidly, so callously, might cancel out all of the other ibadah that you are engaging in. Not that you're engaging in haram, but the how you engage in it in a manner where you don't feel any shame. Shamelessly engage in haram and spread it and dare somebody to say something to you about it, and then you know no. He said, "Ittaqil maharim takun a'bad nas." Stay away from the maharim. Stay away from the things that Allah made haram, and do the things that Allah commanded you to do. Takun a'bad nas. Then and only then will you be the most devout worshippers. Be amongst the devout worshiping people. So now the question is, why is that the standard? Why is doing what Allah commanded and staying away from what Allah forbade, why is that the standard of becoming the most devout of people? Because that requires sacrifice. Staying away from haram is not easy. It's not an easy task. It's not easy to stay away from the things that Allah made haram, especially when we live in an environment, in a society that advertises haram right in front of us. It advertises it, whether in the form of interest, loans, interest, whether in the form of, now marijuana in some places is now, legalized. You know what I mean? Like, just think about how that affects, Muslims who used to be, addicted to marijuana. Some people still addicted to marijuana. I mean, think about how that affects them. Think about, you know, we live in a society where the moment you turn 21, you're now the legal age of drinking. Think about how that, this stuff is advertised. You know what I mean? Like, think about the Muslim men and women who engage in, relationships that are un-Islamic. It's not easy to stay away from things that are haram. So staying away from things that are haram requires sacrifice. And doing the things that Allah commanded you to do, getting up in the morning for Salatul Fajr, praying Salatul Isha, the two most difficult prayers on the hypocrite. These things are not easy for everybody. Some people may find them easy, but the vast majority don't necessarily find them easy. And so it requires a personal sacrifice. What we know in Islam as mujahadatun nafs. You know what I mean? Like a struggle against your own soul. And when you learn to gain mastery over your soul, then and only then do you become A'badun Nas, the most devout of Allah's worshippers. You understand how that works? You see how that works? Then and only then do you become A'badun Nas, the most devout of Allah's worshippers. Why? Because you've earned that title through self-sacrifice. You've made the necessary sacrifices. And there's some people who convert to Islam and you change your dress. That's a small sacrifice. Yes, I'm not downplaying that. But that is not even the tip of the iceberg. That is not even the tip of the iceberg. You changed your dress. Whoop-dee, you went from wearing tight jeans to putting on an all black overgarment. Got you. Okay, what else have you done? If your character is still the same, your behavior is still the same, you're lying, you're backbiting, you're gossiping, you're tail carrying, all of that is still the same. You haven't changed any of that. Still late for Salat, still late for Fajr, still late for this, still miss this prayer, miss that prayer. You don't get to hide behind a garment. You don't get to hide behind a beard and a kufi and don yourself as Abd nas, as the most devout of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's servants. It doesn't work like that. He said, Ittaqal maharim takun Abd nas. Stay away from the things that Allah made haram and do the things that Allah commanded you to do. And then and only then, which that requires sacrifice, self-sacrifice. Then and only then will you have the title of Abd nas, the most devout of Allah's worshippers. See how that works? Because you made a sacrifice. Some of us claim that title for ourselves right now and haven't made one sacrifice for God. What sacrifices have you made? You still the same individual. You are still the same individual as you were before you converted to Islam. You just changed your name and you don't eat pork. But you're still the same person. Nothing about your character has changed. Nothing about your, you know, I mean, how do you, and then you claim that title for yourself. I'm on the hawk and everybody else is astray. You see how that works? But what have you done? All this hawk that you are professing to have, where is it? In what? In a theory? Because you hold a particular set of beliefs and you believe that holding those particular set of beliefs sets you aside from everyone else? No. Those beliefs have to be followed up by action. Because I know people who have adopted a set of beliefs that they believed separated them from everyone else. And in due time, those beliefs proved to be just pure theory. Some of them are not even Muslim right now. I know students of knowledge who were in the University of Medina with me who today are not even Muslim, let alone, you know, practicing Islam. They don't even identify with Islam. But yet there was a time when they held a particular set of beliefs, believing that those beliefs separated them from the rest of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's worshippers. But it was just theory. Islam is not just a theoretical doctrine. He said, who will take these words from me and act upon them, or at least teach them to someone who will act upon them? You see there? That's work. That's work. And in this day and time, man, some of you guys are just so impressionable. You're so impressionable by a person's dress. You're so impressionable about a person's Arabic level of Arabic. MashaAllah, he speaks Arabic, and that's all the person has to do is to speak Arabic, and they got you. That's it. Quote, name drop a few scholars, and that's it. And you will bet your whole deen on that. You'll bet your entire soul on that. I mean, if that works for you, I'm cool with it. If you like it, I love it. But I'm telling you from the Prophet ﷺ's words, that's not the way that it works. Okay? Ittaqal maharim takun a'bad nas. Stay away from the things that Allah made haram. Do the things that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala commanded you to do, takun a'bad nas, and you will be the most devout of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's worshippers. Because that requires sacrifice. That requires mujahada to nafs. That requires you to struggle against your own soul. He said, number 2, he said, وَرْضَى بِمَا قَسَمَ اللَّهُ لَكَ تَكُنْ أَغْنَى النَّاسِ. And this is probably, out of all of them, the most important right now in this particular moment. He said, وَرْضَى بِمَا قَسَمَ اللَّهُ لَكَ. Find contentment in what Allah has distributed to you from his qadr, from his divine preordainment, from his divine decree. Find contentment in what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has decreed for you, has distributed to you from his divine preordainment. Takun agnan nas, and you will be the wealthiest of people, the richest of people. True richness comes from contentment. True richness comes from contentment. Because when you find contentment, you don't need anything else. You don't have a need that people can play on. Contentment breeds a level of, freedom. Contentment breeds freedom, hurriya. That when you are content, you are free because you don't need anybody. The wealthiest people in the world are not those who have everything. The wealthiest people in the world are those who don't need anything. You understand? I don't need you. Thus, those people are wealthy. Content people have real wealth. We keep talking about chasing the bag. The bag is contentment. You understand? Because you can chase that bag all day long. You can chase the money bag all day long and you're still never satisfied. Think about the millionaires and billionaires right now that are still chasing the bag. It's like, damn, like you've been a rapper since the 80s. You know what I mean? Like you've been an entertainer since the 80s and you still post on Instagram that you chasing the bag. You still chasing the bag? I mean, like, then it must be something wrong with that bag if you still chasing it after 30 years. You still chasing it. If you still chasing a money bag after 30 years, at some point the light bulb has to go off in your head and say, well, maybe I'm chasing the wrong bag. Maybe I'm chasing the wrong bag. Maybe the bag that I should be chasing is contentment, because once you find that bag, you don't need to chase no more bags. You follow me? Does that make any sense? Once you find the bag of contentment, all other bags are irrelevant. You understand? Because you're content. You've reached the point in your life where it's not a necessity for you. You don't need it. And I think that is one of the things that we are missing in this day and time. And learning how to be content with what Allah gave you, what Allah distributed to you from his decree. وَرْضَى بِمَا قَسَمَ اللَّهُ لَكَ تَكُنْ أَغْنَى النَّاسِ. Find contentment in the thing that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the things that Allah has distributed to you from his qadr, from his blessings. And, you will be the wealthiest of people. Real wealth is in contentment. Real wealth is not in materialistic possessions. Let me show you how self-contentment actually makes you wealthy. Some people, as I put in a post on my Instagram page yesterday, until you learn how to be comfortable being alone, you will never know if you are choosing to be with someone out of love or loneliness. Until you become comfortable being alone, you will never know whether you are choosing to be with someone out of love or out of loneliness. Right now, look at the person that you are with right now in your life. Are you with them because you love them? Or are you with them because you just don't want to be lonely? You understand? Be honest with yourself. Have an honest conversation with yourself. Are you with the person because you don't? Some women ask for a divorce. Some women ask for a divorce and then they come back into the man's life because they just simply can't handle being alone. I can't handle that. I see what it's like, being lonely. I don't want to be like that. So I'm going to go back and I'm going to tolerate all his BS. I'm going to tolerate all his nonsense. And the same thing with men. Sometimes we divorce women and then we go and we take them back because it's like, well, I don't want to deal with what's out there. I'll just be content with this. You know what I mean? Meanwhile, this is dysfunctional. This is toxic. But you would rather stay in a toxic, dysfunctional relationship rather than be lonely. Do you hate yourself that much? Do you hate yourself that much that you would rather be in a toxic, dysfunctional relationship rather than be by yourself? And the thought of being lonely, the thought of being by yourself is something that some people just simply can't handle. They can't handle it. Some people try, year, 2 years go by, and it's like, nah, I'm not built like that. Hey, how you doing? I ain't built like that. I have to be in a relationship. I cannot stand coming home sitting with my own self. That's real self-hatred. That is real self-hatred. And it's exploitation at its best because you are only in a relationship with someone not because you love them, but because you just don't want to be lonely. So you're basically using them. You're using them to avoid, the discomfort of being lonely. That's real. That's real talk right there. And some people listening might be experiencing that right now. You know, once you have been alone with yourself and you become content with who you are, then you can decide, whether I'm with this person for love or I'm with this person for loneliness. But until you do that, you will never know. But when you become content with who you are and what you have to offer, you are okay being alone, being by yourself until the right person comes along that can appreciate who you are and what you bring to the table. That's self-contentment. That's called self-contentment. Be content with what Allah has distributed to you from his bounty, from his blessing, from what he decreed for you to have. To kun agnan nas, then you'll be the wealthiest of people. Somebody might see you single and be like, Dad, you don't want a spouse, you don't want a relationship. Like, I am cool by myself. I'm okay. I'm good. Like, you don't need to feel sorry for me. I actually enjoy being by myself. I enjoy that. I get a lot of pleasure out of just being by myself, just being alone. I'm okay with that. So now I know that when I do go into a relationship, I do finally go into a relationship, I know it's about love. It's not about loneliness because I'm not lonely. I'm okay with being by myself. That's self contentment. Contentment breeds liberty, freedom. Contentment also allows you, to not just be free, but you don't have to be humiliated. When you are content, right, it breeds a level of izzah, a level of honor. So when someone calls you and says, "Hey, I need you to do this, I need you to do that," and you know that that is beneath the standards that you have set for yourself in your life, you tell the person, "Nah, I'm good. Keep it moving." You are not a slave to anybody. You don't have to humble yourself in front of someone because you found contentment with where you are. I was offered to do, a lecture in Texas some years ago, and the brother called, sent me an email, and he offered me $500, to fly out to Texas and do some type of Dawah thing event that they were doing or whatever. And I mean, like, you understand something like going through an airport for a public speaker. You know, I mean, I can't speak for everybody, but for myself, going through I have anxiety the moment I get to the door of the airport. I start to have anxiety, literally. Especially if I'm flying out of the country, I already know they're going to pull me over. I'm going to have to go in. They're going to look through my cell phone or look through my computer, look through my bags. You know what I'm saying? Like, you got a female officer looking through, your boxes, touching your drawers, touching your stuff. I mean, like, that's humiliating. It's humiliating. And you offer a public speaker $500, an African American public speaker $500. And I told the brother, no, thank you. Thanks, but no thanks. I'm good. Not that I couldn't use the exposure, but um, what you were offering me, and in contrast to everything that I was going to have to go through just to get there, it just really wasn't worth it. It was beneath the standards that I set for myself. And it wasn't necessarily about the money, but the money was a factor because, as I said to the brother, I said, with all due respect, you wouldn't offer somebody like Yasser Qadi, or you wouldn't offer somebody else, one of these A-list imams, you wouldn't offer him $500. So why did you feel so comfortable just to offer me $500? You understand? Like, no, sorry. Obviously, you saw some worth in me for you to reach out. You know what I mean? Other than that, you would have found somebody else. So obviously, you saw worth in me, but you didn't see me worthy of what you would offer someone else. You understand? It's the principle of it. And I wasn't in need of, and even if I was in need of $500, I'm not going to sell myself like that. You understand? That's contentment. I'm content. And when you're content, you can tell people, no, no, I'm not going to do it. Other people looking at you like, you're not going to do that? Nope. Because you would do that because you are not content. I don't have to do it because I'm content. It doesn't matter how much you offer me. It doesn't matter how much someone offers you. If what they are inviting you to is belittling to you and where you stand, as a speaker, as a leader, as who you see yourself to be, then you don't have to take it. I'm sorry. I don't care about your money. That comes from contentment. You understand? You see what contentment does to you? It gives you the power to tell people no. Because I don't need you. You understand? I don't need you. Nope. I'm good. Offer to come, to this masjid or that masjid to give a khutbah, offer to come here, just a little follow-up on the, masjid taqwa situation. Um, some of the brothers on the board did reach out to me. They reached out to me to come back to masjid taqwa so we could sit and talk, and my response was no. I'm content. I don't need to come to Masjid Taqwa. Masjid Taqwa doesn't, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's not going to hurt me one way or another. Understand? But I'm content with where I am. I don't need that drama in my life. So when the call comes, hey, can you come and sit with the brothers? No, no, I'm not sitting with anybody. I don't need to sit and, you know what I mean? Like, I can come to Masjid Taqwa and pray and just be a regular Muslim. You understand? I don't need to go and apologize to nobody. I don't need nobody to apologize to me. All is forgiven. All is forgiven. Just leave me alone. You understand? Because I'm content. Those are the type of things that you can do when you find contentment. You can tell a person no, because I don't need you one way or another. That does not add anything to my plate. It doesn't take anything away from it. وَرْضَى بِمَا قَسَمَ اللَّهُ لَكَ تَكُنْ أَغْنَى النَّاسِ. Find contentment in what Allah has given you, and you will be the wealthiest of people. So the real bag is contentment. The real bag is not money. The real bag is learning how to find peace with what you have and who you are. I hope that's clear. Learning how to have peace with who you are, what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave you. Obviously, if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala closed that door, then it's not for me. I'm not going to go and force my way into doors that have been closed by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I'm content completely with what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has decreed for me. So, just kind of giving you, I know I never spoke about it again, and I had no intention on speaking about it again, but it just a shape of shade youth called, we was kind of like there in the moment, and it just kind of fit. That little piece of the puzzle kind of fit right in there. So I'm not at Masjid Taqwa, giving lectures or doing anything, not because Masjid Taqwa has a problem with Shadid Muhammad. The brothers at Masjid Taqwa did reach out to me to rectify the situation, but they did so at a time when I felt like I had already exhausted myself to try to reconcile, and now you want nah, I'm good. I'm good. Cool. So it's all good, and there's no hard feelings. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't have no hard feelings. I can go in the masjid, pray, give everybody salams or whatever the case may be, but I will never step foot in there to give a lecture. Why? Because I don't need to. I don't need to. Alhamdulillah, social media has afforded people like myself the opportunity to speak to the Muslim community beyond, the four walls of the masjid. So I think as long as we have social media, you know, people like myself have a greater platform. I think masajid actually limit you in the amount of people that you can actually reach out to, because there's so many biases that are connected to certain messages. Oh, he going to that masjid, he's that type of Muslim. Or he's going to that masjid, or he must be affiliated with that type of Muslim. You know what I'm saying? So I think masjids are actually limiting, you know, the circuit is actually limiting in the amount of people that you can actually reach, while social media puts you in a much more broader, spectrum of people that you can actually reach out to. And I'm grateful for what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has blessed me with. All right. Number 3, in really quickly, and then I'll open up for questions and answers. Number 3, and those are the main 2 that I wanted to kind of get to. But number 3, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, "Wa ahsan ila jarik, takun mu'minan." That, do good to your neighbor, and then you will be a believer. Be good to your neighbor, and you'll be a believer. And there are 3 different types of neighbors. There are a number of different types of neighbors. There's your neighbor that's Muslim, and he's also a relative. So he gets the right of being your relative, and he also gets the right of being your neighbor, and he gets the right of being a Muslim. And then there is the neighbor that is a non-Muslim, right? And he gets the right of being a non-Muslim, and he gets the right of being your neighbor. All right. And then there's the, neighbor that is Muslim, but not your family member. And that person gets the right of Islam, the right of the Brotherhood of Islam, gets the right of being a neighbor. All right. So, there are a number of different situations in which your neighbor falls into. But the Prophet ﷺ said, Ahsani la jarik tukun mu'minan. Do good, be a good neighbor to your neighbor, and you will be a believer. And there's a reason why he connected being a believer to that, right? Because we're talking about human interaction. Here again, putting emphasis on your character, your behavior. Here again, right? While for many of us that means absolutely nothing, as long as you hold this aqidah, this set of theological beliefs, this belief system that is, in reality for many abstract, because you don't act upon it. So it's just a set of laws, a set of beliefs that you claim to adhere to, but it's not, you know what I mean? Like it's not present in your behavior. It's not present in how you interact with the world. It's just a set of beliefs, abstract. You don't act upon them. You haven't internalized them. We say Tawheed, Tawheed, but where's the actualization of Tawheed in your minhaj and how you carry yourself? So, it's just a theory. It's just a set of beliefs that we say we adhere to, and we believe that separates us from the rest. But until you act upon those, until you internalize those, until you manifest those in the way that you interact with Allah's creatures, it's just a set of beliefs. It doesn't really mean anything. He said, do good to your neighbor and you will be a believer. He said, "Wa ahib linnasi ma tuhibbu li nafsik," and love for people what you love for yourself. Takun musliman, then you will be a Muslim. Love for people what you love for yourself, and you will be a Muslim. He said, and avoid kathrat al-dhahik, avoid laughing too much, because excessive laughing, it deadens the heart. It deadens the heart. It renders the heart dead, useless. Your heart has to have some connection to reality in order for it to do what it's supposed to do. But if you're constantly laughing and you find hilarity in everything that goes on around you, even if you believe that that's what keeps you sane, all right, but then you are pushing yourself into another danger zone, which is that you don't take anything serious. Everything is a joke. Everything is funny. It's humor in everything. There's some things that we have to actually see the seriousness of it. It's not a joke. It's not humorous. It's serious. Because to take everything as a joke, it will deaden your heart. Your heart has to function, has to be the guide that by which you navigate through the world. And you have to be able to see things, as serious as they are. So these are the 5 pieces of advice that the Prophet ﷺ gave to Abu Hurairah radiallahu ta'ala anhu. If you can benefit from them, alhamdulillah. If you can't, then pass the information on to someone else and perhaps they can benefit from it. هذا وصلى الله على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم تسليما كثيرا وآخر دعوانا أن الحمد لله رب العالمين والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.